Welcome back. It is the Press Box. We talk sport tonight, but we never lose our sense of fashion. The Happy Stockings are back on the Press Box tonight. Max Ali has led this campaign for quite a while, and I'm telling you, everyone is jumping onto it, including our guest tonight, Mr. Aggrey Ashaba. Apart from looking dapper, good evening and welcome to the show, Aggrey.
Thank you, Andrew, and I'm happy to be back here on Press Box and also to be among friends.
I mean, we're excited to have you here. Though the last time we had you, you had probably a meeting the next day talking KCCA. Now you're wrapping up your reign down in Lugogo. 2 years later, are you happy?
Change, like I say, is a constant of life, and KCCA is like Hotel California. You can check out, but you never leave. So I'll always be around because this is my club. It doesn't matter in what position I'll be. I'll always be available to serve. And I'm happy that for the last 2 years, I've led a club that I have supported since I was 6, and also managed to do some of the things that we dreamt about that the club should be able to achieve and do when we were young boys, when we used to debate so much football throughout the night, until a time when I became the only person who makes the final decision on what direction the club needs to take.
And I want to talk about that because you made so many decisions in your 2 years. Just give us a quick empirical feel on where you found the club and why you think you leave the club now.
I would like to say that by the time we came in, first I was a board member, as you are aware, until Julius Kabugo decided to step down. Then I became the chairperson. And I remember that very time I was in Moscow, and I saw on the pages that Julius had resigned, and he's like, by the way, I've already talked to the ED, I've talked to the board members, you're going to be the next chairperson. And I told him, but how? I said, there's nothing to do because I can't manage to do the job anymore, and you're the only person who is able to carry the team forward. So I said, no problem, but I'll have to first come back, and then we can discuss. To cut the long story short, 2 years later, here I am, and I think that we've achieved a lot from the time when we launched our strategic plan, which had about 7 key strategic pillars. One of them was on governance, and I can say that all the policies that you need from the management side have been done. What is pending now are policies on the technical side. In terms of how we do recruitments, how we train, the methodology, the identity, the type of coaches that we bring in, how we do our scouting, how we profile players, all those small things that need to be able to guide the club going forward are things which would be pending. But in terms of financial manuals, bonus policies, communication policies, media engagements, all those now are in place, including the trainings that we've been having to improve on the product knowledge of our team. As you are aware that most of them had not been around football, but I can confidently say that currently I don't think there is a better team that understands the game than the team that is at KCCA.
Mark,
secondly, because there's 7 strategic pillars, so I wanted to run through them. Secondly is on the infrastructure development. We've not done as much as we would have wished to, but we've done a bit of small touch-ups at the stadium. But currently, we are in the lobbying stage for the 2020-2021 budget, for the budget for actually doing the complete stadium development. So that has already been put through. We've already engaged the Lord Mayor, we've engaged the ministers, both of them, Madam Betty Kamia and Benny. We've already engaged the ED, we've talked to the council. So that process is undergoing. So my successor, Mr. Martin Sekaja, should be able to carry this forward and be able to deliver it and get it across the line. The third strategic pillar is obviously on the marketing and the media engagements and the branding. As you are aware, we are the most visible club in the country.
That's true.
And if you're to speak of a club, top of the mind awareness, the first thing that will come to you will be KCCA. The other issue has been on stakeholder engagements. So for the different stakeholders and partnerships, we have different schools of excellence, Masaka, Chivuli, Old Kampala. We are concluding one with Budo, but we are also working on some for the primary schools, so we can start our teams a bit younger. We now have also international partnerships with Elguna, and hopefully, probably next season, the club should be able to have a pre-season away from Kampala through those partnerships. We've also worked on the training and development, which we try to do as much as possible. Then the other issue is on the finances. We've not done much in terms of bringing in a lot of money, but what we've done is the control, managing what we have in the most frugal manner, but also to be able to create the data that allows us to make intelligent decisions, and also the transparency and the accountability of the resources that we have. And it's not only financial, but even time, even the actions that people do at the stadium. So I can say that largely what I would consider one of the highlights of the 2 years is building a professional business culture in a football club. So for me, I think that is the best thing that has happened at the club, and I hope that the foundation can be able to carry the team forward.
Mark, from the outside, in terms of looking at KCCA's management or any other club's management, you're looking at how the funds are communicated to, you're looking at the visibility, like he said, the competitions you're going to go into, the players being paid. I mean, where do you think Aggrey has rated? But more interestingly, is he being modest when he says we haven't brought in that much money? Because I don't know many Ugandan clubs that are making more money than KCCA.
Yeah, there's a bit of modesty there. But I mean, well, I'm not sure about the targets, but the thing is that what he hasn't said there with the finances, for example, is how much they've made from player sales. And I think they've outdone everybody over the last 2 years. KCCA, over the last 3 years, I think they've got more money, more revenue from selling of players than any other club. From outside looking in, I've always been impressed, and I've said it here on the show. Ideally, it should leave a sour taste in my mouth, because I don't subscribe to that party, if you like. But it doesn't, because I speak with a clear conscience when I give them the credit. Because for me, I look at the bigger picture, and a strong KCCA is good for Ugandan football, and it's in so many different ways. For starters, there's been a huge wake-up call as far as my own club is concerned, and even Villa, the baby steps on either side. But I think ultimately the target is to reach and pass KCCA, and if they didn't set that target, it would be difficult to inspire people who had thought that it was too late in football for us to take those clubs back to where they used to belong, because some people had actually walked away who can do the kind of thing Aggrey and his team have done at KCCA, but they're back because of what KCCA has done. So I personally, for me, it's a really good thing what they've done there, and yeah, clearly it's very modest. Even on our forums, which are private, when you send him a congratulatory message, he says it's not me. It's the guys. It's not me. It's the other guys, players, and things like that. But it's the one thing I wanted him to be able to tell us is what the changes, because ideally, for me, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. So he should be explaining to us why KCCA are making these changes, because perhaps many people out there don't understand this.
Mark, for that reason, I wanted to go to Madoi first, and I wanted to ask Madoi, let's start a rumor tonight. Let's start a rumor on the press box tonight. Yes. And I'll tell you this in two parts. One, I've talked to a couple of KCCA players, and I don't want to drag you into politics, my friend, but I mean, you're on the press box, so you have to explain as well. Some KCCA fans feel Aggrey has only left because of the changes at the top, and then they don't understand whether the appointment of the new chairman is political or not. Some feel, like he's saying, if it's not broken, you shouldn't fix it. Do you feel Aggrey ends his reign? And we're starting a rumor tonight. Do you think he ends his reign because of politics at KCCA? Of which he was the political head.
First of all, I don't think he's left. I think he's going to serve as vice chairman. If I'm right, I don't know.
There are two different cabinet lists. These are things he's got to clarify.
That's the room I want us to start tonight.
Which probably, those
one
two
puts
lists
him up there, another one puts him
to
somewhere
the
else.
politics that you're alluding to. But yes, there have always been those rumors that there are two different power centers at the authority, and because of that, some bit of friction has been caused, and which friction has ended up sort of sidelining Aggrey. I don't know if it has substance, and I would imagine he's not comfortable speaking about it.
He's going to tell us.
Yeah, but yeah, for Aggrey, first of all, and it's fantastic having him here. His 2 years, I think, have been a bit topsy-turvy, in the sense that domestically, I think Aggrey has, I wouldn't say outdone himself, but KCCA has sort of been, a leading light on the domestic scene. They are defending champions, but on the continent, and this is a question that I would throw to him. Does he believe, in his tenure, KCCA performed as well as you'd have liked it to perform? Because previously, they had managed to make, I think, the CAF Confederation Cup group stage, and that was seen as some bit of a landmark. And in this tenure, and I know the challenges that you go through. I know what happened in Otoho, the kind of treatment that you got off the pitch, and how they subjected you guys to unimaginable horrors. We also watched what happened in Angola. The goal, a marginal decision, that had that goal being chalked off and all these kinds of things. But looking back, is it something that you look back with some bit of sadness at the way in which you've approached the continent? First of all, signing players, and then again you don't have these players at your disposal. Is it something administratively that maybe you should have worked on? Because what sense does it make for you to sign Revita, for you to sign Odemwegus, for you to sign all
Simon
these,
Serunkuma, Elisa Sechsambu,
and you can't use them?
Okay, thank you very much. So first of all, I would like to answer Madoi to say that yes, would have loved to play more continental football. Unfortunately, refereeing conditions and financial situations have connived not to allow us to progress mostly to the group stages. And largely it's because that as a club, we do not have the financial resources that allows us to retain some of the best players that we have groomed or to buy outside of the Ugandan market. Because when you look at, for example, any leading striker within the East African region, you probably will need to fork out anywhere between $70,000 and $100,000 to get him. And you'll need a salary of about $2,000, $1,500. Honestly, KCCA cannot be able to afford that. Actually, if they came for our player for that same amount of money, would gladly be able to sell him, because if you look at some of our finances, you'll find that our transfer income or revenue contributes about 41% of our budget to run the football club. So this season alone, we've made about 980 million shillings from player sales, and that has allowed us to actually run the campaign, because the other revenues we had was about 300 million, and we have a campaign that has started with Sekafa all the way into 2 games on the continent without any cash flows or any finances coming through. So that money has helped us to not only play on the continent, but also to offset certain debts that have been accruing since 2012. We came in when the debt burden was about 3 billion. It has now come back down to about 1.5, and I think we are doing very well. We have statutory obligations that we pay every month. We obviously have a payroll, which we also pay every month. It's about 100 million. And very recently, we released our finances. So anyone who is interested in trying to see how the club is running will see that we are currently in red numbers, because what we bring in and what we expend are not in tandem. So they're still a red, and that is why. 2 is that transfer business is not like walking into a supermarket and you buy a soda. It is sometimes very protracted and prolonged. And I'll give an example. When we signed Elisa Sechsambu, we signed him on time, entered him in the system on time, but our counterparts from Goma here confirmed 7 days later. So the player couldn't play. And that didn't only happen to us, but it also happened to Isenge, who was bought by Petro Luanda. That's why he also didn't play the preliminary stages, because the person who was the TMS manager decided to go on holiday. And he entered the acceptance 7 days later after the deadline had been, whatever. Secondly, for the other players, is that the negotiations, for example, if you see, Kadu played for us the first game in Namibia, because the deal was not clear. It was not yet available, and then we get a confirmation of the deal when the player has already played for us 1 game. He's cap tight, but the club says we need him, and you talk to the player, he says, I'm ready, you can allow me to go. We say, fine, let's close the deal. You close it, and out he goes. Now you need to look for a replacement because you can't bring in a player before you sell. First of all, you don't have the money to buy. You need to first get revenue for you to be able to identify. Now, the process of identification also takes a bit of time. So you sometimes will come, you negotiate with this gentleman, Mark Sally. He tells you, I need $30,000. You've received 90. You make it, and you say, no, this one we can't afford. Now, the time is obviously running. Then you come to Madoy. Madoy says, okay, we can't. You say, I'll go with Andrew. He's affordable. He may not give me 20 goals. He may give me 12. But he's the one I can afford now without distorting my payroll. Because if I spend $30,000 on him, tomorrow when I'm signing another player, I'll need 50,000. It's not sustainable. Otherwise, the club is going to collapse and we'll go into the red. And tomorrow you'll find the players asking for payment for their salaries, and we can't afford it. And yet, for us, our primary obligation is operational sustainability. Is that the player has to get his salary, has to get the bonuses, and he has to be able to play the game. So everything else becomes a bonus until we get to a level where we can be able to break even and we can plan and even have investments. The primary concern for us is operational sustainability, and that's why our mix of players is from the developmental side, and then we also bring in a couple of those who have matured that we can afford, and we can also polish up and flip for a good fee so that it can come back into the club to support the growth of the club.
One of those is John Revita, but he was a free agent. So
yes, he was a free agent, but like I told you, is that sometimes the players are in a transit lounge. So they are talking to different agents. So you come to him, there's someone telling him he's taking him to Turkey, another one is telling him he's taking him to another club, another one is telling him to another club. So when there's a conversation of that nature, you first take a back seat because you can't afford.
The interesting thing, though, just kind of wrap that up, because as the years have gone on, the players have also demanded more. The pressures in football have gotten bigger. There's more cost now of looking after clubs with the technology and the funds. Do you feel the same satisfaction from the kind of money that is coming in, or are we having higher standards with less income, which of course puts you guys under more pressure?
Because I'll tell you that our wage bill has jumped from probably 70 million to about 101 million in the last 2 years, and largely it's because of enhanced contracts. The technical team's contracts had actually run out 3 years ago, so last season we had to also improve them because they had given us everything. So we had to also renew them with an improvement, and that is how you have about a 30 million jump in the payroll. So yes, is that every time that the players perform, every time that the club outperforms itself, you also have to match and share in the prosperity as a football club.
He has not answered my question yet,
now to my issue. No, he hasn't answered mine either. You've answered Madoy's.
Yes.
Now to these changes.
Yep.
And where they leave you. First of all, what warranted them? Like I said, if it ain't broken, don't try and fix it.
Well, for me,
do I sound like Will Smith?
Yeah,
I wanted to sound like Will Smith. Did I?
just the accent.
Like Will Smith.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Well, about the changes
Fresh Prince of
is
Bel-Air.
that contractually, our tenure ends on the 11th, which is today, by the way, on the 11th of November. So the appointing authority has the complete mandate to decide who they bring onto board, who they think can actually be able to perform the duties that they would like the club or the aspirations of the club to go forward. So I cannot comment on what the justifications were. And like I said, is that for KCCA, is Hotel California. I can check out, but I'll never leave.
How about the
so I'll be available.
How about the talk about board charters and you not being an employee of KCCA? Was that a factor? Is it actually that the chairman has got to be?
Oh yes, because even for the last 2 years I've been acting chairman. So the onus is on the authority to either change that concern or keep it, because the club is actually 100% owned by the authority.
Yeah, but Aggrey, what test does, one second, what test does it leave in your mouth then? I think for me that's the point, because you see, you're overly political on this show tonight. You're overly very good. He's answering questions in a very diplomatic way. You're a KCCA fan. You just told us you had your dreams to come through and manage the side until a point when you were making the final decisions. You're doing fantastic. And then now you have to be vice chairman. I think what Mark is trying to ask here is, are you actually, of course you're not happy, but is that the reason that you probably could walk away from management, Does it leave a sour taste in your mouth? Are you happy with the decision that came from the appointing authority, or you would rather not comment about it?
Is he vice chairman anyway?
Yeah.
Those power centers.
Oh, boy.
Like I said,
One of the statements I saw was he was vice chairman now.
Yeah, the other one was
Yeah.
saying is a member of a committee.
So I want to know, I mean, where does that leave you and your love for KCCA from a management
like I've
perspective?
just said, is that KCCA, the football club, it doesn't matter what position you take, you can always serve for it. Like I've been serving in voluntary position from the time I was a branch chairman from Aggrey University, and that is 1998, until 2017 when I became the chairperson. So it doesn't matter where you are, you can always be able to contribute on the growth of the football club. Obviously, it would be good to be the one who makes the decisions, but bringing in someone who is new, who can be able to carry the team forward, is that it's also a good thing, because probably he can bring in better ideas, and I believe that he can probably even take the club further than we have contributed to it in the last 2 years.
Okay.
So yes, change is normal.
Are you the
change is
vice
concerned.
chairman or a committee member?
What
Just answer
position
the
are you going to hold
question.
after tonight?
Tell us, yeah.
I believe tomorrow there will be a presser regarding the leadership of the football club, and the concerns will be answered.
So is the ED side winning or the mayor's?
There's going to be a presser.
So you don't want to give us an exclusive on the press box tonight?
I'm not a media person. I'm just telling you
But
that
here's
tomorrow
the
there'll be
interesting
something.
Here's an interesting one. I don't want us to talk about this for long because I think you've tried to be as diplomatic as you can. But for me, the most interesting one is, I mean, you were close to the top of football management for quite a while, for your love of the game, being on the board and everything. These 2 years, what has it really taught you about Ugandan football? Because there's talk of fans who are running away, fans are coming back. There's talk of there's a struggle of finances in Ugandan football. There's it's always so busy. What has these 2 years taught you about club management in Uganda? What is it that you think you guys have done right, and some sides, some big traditional sides, have struggled with?
I think for me, first of all, is that you cannot run this football club or you cannot run top flight football successfully if you do not understand the football trinity. And this I keep telling to my team every time we're having classes. One is football, the game, is what people see when you come to the stadium. Then there's football, the business. And then there's football, the industry or the politics. Those three is that people always confuse them. They are very different. And you have to have the knowledge of all the three aspects for you to be able to succeed. And for you to be able to do that, knowing where the game has come from, you must be able to commit approximately 90% of your time in growing the trinity of football. Without that, you're just basically flying on a wing and a prayer. Is that things just happen by chance and you cannot be able to succeed, or it will be what they say is that one chance can make a fool wise. So it's important that those three aspects are learned. Two is that we have in the football fraternity a false sense of entitlement for people around football. And this is something that we need to do away with. When we were starting, for example, the management of the gates, and I will tell you is that we had too much resistance from journalists to former players, to former administrators, to people who have been hanging around the game, who do not want to pay a single penny, but tomorrow they want to ask whether the player has been paid. So when we started that policy at the stadium, we faced a lot of resistance. They went ahead and reported to everyone how someone who is from nowhere is trying to make changes at the football club. But if you look at the numbers, last season we collected about 350 million shillings from the gates. And you can see 3 years ago, we were not even collecting 20 million shillings. So it tells you that if you have the perspective of the football trinity, you can actually be able to generate revenues from the game.
I want to ask Mark and Madeo to ask you a few questions as we wrap, but let me also remind the viewer at home that in case you're a KCCA fan or anyone really in the Uganda Premier League or loves Ugandan football, you have an opportunity now to call in and give us your thoughts on Aggrey Ashaba's reign at KCCA, or ask him any question that you honestly want to ask him. It's 0778 722 784. It will flash on your screen, but let me say it one more time. 0778 722 784. I want to ask him about his biggest achievements at the club, but I'll ask you first if you have something you want to push forward.
Yes, the two questions I wanted to ask is one, if there was one vice you would get out of Ugandan football right now, if you had the power to, which one is it? The one vice that you think is a killer for our game. Two, just what can we do to have more money in this industry than we do now, because when I look at the numbers as far as employment is concerned, and I compare with the most developed nations, when I look at the people working unemployed on Uganda's streets and in Uganda's villages, and our economy and what sport can do for it, what is it, the one thing that you can tell guys out there? Because you've talked about a few, you've hinted on quite many things on the financials and all, and some of it is a bit complex. If you had to say, this is what you do to get more money in Ugandan football. 1, 2, this is what you have to get rid of in Ugandan football. Which ones are they?
I think I have an answer for both questions, but I'll put a bit of flesh on each. The one thing that I would want to put away in Ugandan football is the belief that football is just a social gathering. That is the one thing that we need to put away. Football is serious business.
It's a product.
Is that everyone who doesn't think of football as a business is doing a disservice to the game. And that is one of the major issues that we have around the game. Which then answers your point number 2, is that how does the game actually, how can the game be able to generate revenues?
Yes.
And the only way it can generate revenues is by people being able to understand that this is a business. And being a business, it means that you need to be able to understand revenue sources, be able to understand how to package products and services, be able to know who a customer is. Because the other day I was discussing with some fans, and he's saying, I've been a fan of the club from 1976, so you need to look for me. I said, no. A football fan of KCCA is one who buys its products. Simple as that.
One who looks for the club.
Simple as that. Because if you don't buy, you're not a fan. You're just a well-wisher. Because this club needs the money that you put in. Whether you're buying a jersey, or you're paying for a football game, or you're doing a service. Secondly, in terms of generation of revenue, I think that the government, where the game is now, has a major hand to play to be able to boost this industry. Because this industry is a net employer of youth. This industry is something that can actually do social transformation. And I'll give quick numbers. A player comes from Palace State Council earning $200. 3 years later, he's earning $5,000. Not even many people in Uganda earn that amount of money.
No.
He's going to transform not only his family, but the whole social setting. Just one player. He has a 3-year contract that is about $120,000 a year. He's basically bringing home 1 billion shillings in 3 years. How many people make 1 billion shillings in 3 years?
So do you think
even who have 3 degrees.
Do you think government or the authorities, or whoever it is, hasn't paid as much attention as
we have not taken the game to the dining tables or to the tables that make the decisions. And I think that is something that we need to amplify through media, through everyone who is running football, to make sure that they understand the impact of sport, and I'm not talking just football, of sport to the socio-economic transformation of a country.
Let's take some calls. Aggrey, we've got a couple of either KCCA fans or Ugandan football fans online, either to make a comment or ask you a couple of questions. Good evening and welcome to the press box. Hello? Good
Hello?
evening.
Good evening to you.
I'm very good, my brother. What's your name?
My name is Charles Wankambo.
Aggrey is here.
Yeah, I would like Aggrey to talk about the transfers of some stuff and to Switzerland.
Okay. I think we're going to take about 3 questions, then we can come to those. Aggrey, if you can have them somewhere. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching for the press box as well. Okay, do we have someone else online? Good evening. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, what's your name, my friend? Where are you watching us from?
My name, I'm called Mugisha Fred. I'm calling from Mutungo.
Thank you. Aggrey is here.
Yeah, Aggrey, how are you?
I'm okay. Hi, how are you?
I'm okay. I've been a KCC fan since 1978. And you have been talking about us, those who don't have to pay. But now, since you came in, you have not attracted any sponsorship for these 2 years. What has happened? What has caused this? And then lastly, I want this mayor to sort out this issue of politics in our club. Can he be a patron and leave the management of the club to the concerned people? Thank you.
Okay, I think those are fantastic questions.
These are good callers.
Yeah, I think we should take one more, just one more, so we can let Aggrey answer as many as he can. Mado has something, ask him as well. Good evening and thank you for watching for the press box. Hello? Good evening. Hello? Okay.
Hello?
Fantastic. Good evening, my friend. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, this is Wesley Manyaso calling from Boyogerere.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for the show.
Asante.
Now, hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm getting it. Good evening to you. How are you, Kabura?
Asante sana. Thank you very much, man. Ask Aggrey the question.
Yeah, now, my question to Ashaba is, yes, Aggrey.
He can
I
hear
can
you.
hear
Please
you.
shoot.
I can hear you. Please.
Shoot.
Please
you can
reduce
ask
the
your
volume
question.
on your TV set so we can.
You're not clear.
Please, when you call us, make sure you reduce the volume on your TV set so you don't have them to listen to yourself before Aggrey answers. Aggrey, a couple of.
Yes.
Perhaps someone else? You know, we're trying to get in as many questions for you as we can. But I think let him first answer these. You have some 3 big questions.
Thank you. The gentleman who asked about Kiza and Okello. Okello, the negotiations are still on. We're just starting the discussions. For Kiza, we have, I would say, contract disputes on his transfer. But we hope that we can be able to solve it. Otherwise,
disputes internal or
but his
between you
contract
and the
is running
potential
out,
buyer?
isn't it?
no, his contract is still on until 2021.
So is
But,
that dispute internal or is it with the potential buyer?
Now, maybe just to put a bit of fat. Last season, end of last season, the player had asked that he can move on for greener pastures. And we said it's okay, not a problem, but we don't have any offer. And since we don't have any offer, unless you have something that you can bring to the table, then we can look at it. So he said, I have my agent who took me to Valladolid. He was offering money to the club. So I said, no problem, come. He called him to the office, called the agent. He told us he had an offer. I told him, no problem, put it on writing, and then you can have your player. Up to now, no offers ever come. So that window closed. So when the window closed, I told the player that, listen, the window has closed, and looks like there may not be any other opportunity. But since you have a year to go, a year and a half to go, we'll make you an offer, extend your contract, so that you can be able to increase your value. And when you have your value, we can then be able to sell you off. And he says, okay, yeah, but you have to wait for me to... I said, no, it's not possible because the club is in a business. We cannot wait for you to make up your mind. So you either make up your mind now, or we shall then decide to move on.
Yeah.
Because we need to plan. We can't wait for you to make up your mind and then tomorrow you walk away for free. So I called the player and I told him, listen, these are the options you have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this is what I think is good for you. If you force us to sell you, you'll never have a good deal. But if you want a good deal, you need to extend your contract, then we can talk, look around, you play well, you get into the national side, because being on the national team is what actually gives the player value.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you don't play on the national side, you can't move. For example, in Morocco, you cannot be signed if you've not played 10 games with the national side. And all the other teams will always ask, does the player play for the national side? Yes or no. If no, they don't even want to touch you with a long stick. So I told him, where we may take you may not be good for you. Racism, weather, food, culture, language, all these are going to be disadvantages for you. He said, no, I have someone in Czech Republic who wants to take me. I said, no problem, tell him to get in touch with me, and we see if we can close a deal. So we finish closing the deal, and then the player comes and says, I don't want to go anymore because I've not agreed personal terms.
Okay.
So we are saying for us as a club, we cannot wait for that because we're in the business. If you don't want to sign a contract extension, and we gave him another option. We said, okay, maybe it's fine. You are a player. We have invested you so much, 5 years together. We'll offer you another contract offer, an extension. Think through it, get back to us, and then we can cancel this deal. It's up to you.
Okay.
He's here to come back to us.
Okay. I wanted to answer that final question.
Then for the one on sponsorships, yes, we've not been successful on sponsorships, but I can say that we've tried. But like I said, it's difficult because the basket we are dealing with is that the game has not yet gotten the equity, the brand equity that allows people to just put money in sport. And because they don't see much value from, say, football and all the other sports. And that's what I'm saying is that government has a major hand to play. Why? If government came out and said that we provide tax rebates or tax deductions for people who are sponsoring soccer or football or sport, then you will see a lot of influx of money into this industry.
Yeah.
But when someone puts 400 million, it's not tax deductible. What is the benefit when he can put 100 million, say, in mass media and still promote his product?
Yeah.
The two don't match.
But you know, Aggrey, you're scaring me, my friend, because now
yeah.
if you say KCCA hasn't reached that level of attracting that much money.
Yes, I'm telling you, this is the reality of the market.
Yeah, and for me, I think KCCA
This
is
the
at the
reality
top
of the market.
that
And I'll
chain.
tell you is that we've spoken to almost 25 sponsors.
Yeah.
But all of them are hesitant. What do I get? Yes, okay. We've had 32,000 people walk through Lugogo last season. Up from 25,000. That's an increment of 7,000. The numbers are growing, but the interest is not yet there from the sponsors because they can spend much less and achieve the same objective.
Okay, but there's a question. I think you have a few. Someone said you should be.
The one for the Lord Mayor.
Yeah.
The Lord Mayor is a boss for the city. I cannot advise him on what to do. He has other advisors.
Yeah.
I don't work for the authority. I'm a private businessman. I'm only here because the only thing that brings us together is the football club. He's also a supporter of KCCA, by the way, and he's the first mayor in the history of the club to be a patron of the club.
Okay.
Who supports KCCA.
Fantastic. Aggrey Ashaba is still here. He's still going to join us for the final segment on the show as well. We are discussing everything to do with the Uganda Cranes and that big statement from the coach at KCCA, Mr. Mike Mutebi. He's really been harsh, I should say, on the federation. He says the federation is not serious in so many ways. We shall discuss that and play you that clip. But Joel Kamadi is sitting by with a special guest on the show tonight. Joel.
A special guest on the set tonight. I'll be getting to him in a few, but let me just read some reaction on Twitter, and it's addressed to Aggrey, I think. They say here, this is from Sempa Jamed Sevilla. He says he has served and left a legacy at KCCA FC. Mwanga Kenneth says, good management, Ashaba. Thanks for your time. And maybe one more. Mark Lukwago says, please talk about Kiza's transfer from KCCA to Zurich. He's asking, please talk about Kiza's transfer from KCCA to Zurich. Is there any light in that? He'll be answering that in a little bit later after the break when he joins us for the third segment. But before we go for that break, I'm joined here by a gentleman, Albert Ahabwe, who was one of the organizing committee members of the just concluded FIBA 3-on-3 Africa Cup. Albert, a very warm welcome to NTV Press Box.
Thank you. Am I still a guest here?
You're resident. So this is like your third time here, no?
Yeah, it's always nice to be here, especially to talk sport. Good crew of guys, a lot of people with a lot of insight to give about sports. So I always love to come here.
Fantastic. I passed by Lugogo on Friday evening, and I saw the throngs of fans descending at the hockey grounds. Was it a successful event?
Very successful event. I'll tell you for sure. Mark met me on Wednesday evening when we were trying to put everything together and looked at 3 or 4 of us and said, you guys look like you've been stressed for years. But it happens when you're organizing sports events of that caliber. But we grew through it as the days went by, and I can tell you for sure we had a fantastic tournament. We had a successful tournament. We got great reviews from the team that came from FIBA at the end of the tournament. And of course, like I told you, this is a championship that when you're given hosting rights, you're given hosting rights for 3 years. So we will have it next year and the year after that, and we'll get better with each one of them that comes by.
Albert, Egypt winning the double, both the men and the women's title. How competitive, first of all, were they, and how far are we?
They actually won the triple. They won the senior men and women, and they won the under 18 men as well.
So the triple, yes.
Yeah, so they are very competitive. Anyone who follows basketball knows that Egypt is one of the best sides in Africa at all levels and formats of the game. So it's not a surprise when Egypt come in and win 3. Maybe 3, nobody could have predicted that they would win 3, but it's not a surprise, a complete surprise that they would go on to win. They have some amazing players. They had 2 MVPs in both the men's and the women's category. So it was good on them, but not bad at all from our teams as well. Our teams teams did great. I mean, the only team of our 4 teams that did not get a medal were the men's team that finished in number 5, but they were unlucky to land Mali in the quarterfinal, and they just
Mali's
didn't
a
have
strong team.
a very strong team, but they also just didn't have a very good day on the particular day. The shots just didn't fall. But otherwise, our ladies team finished, senior ladies team finished number 3, took the bronze medal. Our under 18 ladies finished in the final. They took the silver medal in the under 18 ladies category. Our boys under 18 team took the bronze medal. So we did fantastic. We had 2 players on teams of the tournament, both in the ladies senior category, Rita Imanishimwe and Namlema Fildaus in the under 18 girls.
Which brings me to ask you, you know, we hosted Rita here last week,
Yeah.
and she said that she was going to rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
And she did, winning
Rita-
bronze for the ladies side.
Rita is our best under 18, is our best 3-on-3 player. She's done that through the under 23s and now the seniors. She's a national team player. She's been a national team player, I think, since 2016. So it's not a surprise for me. She hadn't had a good year up to now, but some of these players, what they need is a touch of home and playing in front of a familiar crowd, having the expectations, looking around the team and knowing that you're the one that's played this format longer than everybody, and it's about time you stepped up if your team is about to get results. She played a fantastic tournament all the way, even to the Egypt game that we didn't win. Even in the third place playoff, she played fantastic. She shot the ball very well. That's what we know of Rita. We expect Rita to be able to shoot the ball at that level. Sometimes they fall, sometimes they don't, but on her day, when the shots are falling, she's one of the toughest players to guard.
As a member of the committee, what did you take away from this tournament? And what does the future hold for Ugandan basketball in general?
The thing that's most important about us as Uganda, we are very good hosts in more things than just sports. We are a good type of people when it comes to hosting, bringing in visitors and taking care of them. We do that very well. So to be able to translate that into the sports arena, to be able to bring in sportsmen and let them experience Kampala, let them experience Uganda, let them experience all that we are about besides basketball is something that we love to do. But more importantly, we learned from, for example, the team of the FIBA 3-on-3 officials that were here. These are guys who have organized hundreds and hundreds of tournaments around the world, and to see them as impressed as they were on Sunday night when everything came to close with how we had grown into organizing the tournament through the 3-4 days that we were together was humbling for us, but was also a point to which we could look at ourselves and say, listen, we've done well. When we come around next year, we'll be even better. The partners that we worked with in this championship now know what a big deal 3-on-3 basketball can be as an outdoor activity, as a social event, as a sports event, but also the ability of our teams to perform when the cameras of the world are focused on us. For 4 days, Joseph, we had for 4 days we had a YouTube channel of FIBA that was focused on us, on Uganda, live streaming every single day. Every single day without any glitches. Our teams did it well. Our country was seen. The ability to host a good tournament was seen. But more importantly, the ability of our players to step up when asked to against the best 12 countries in Africa and put on a show. If anybody told me before the tournament that 3 of our 4 teams fielded would be on the podium, that 2 of our players would be on the best 3 of the tournament, I wouldn't begrudge it.
Fantastic. Congratulations on hosting such a successful event. What next for Uganda?
What next for Uganda? We'll keep pushing for more medals. We'll go out there and push our teams. We'll try to be better. But more importantly, we promise that come next year, when this championship comes around again, we'll put up an even bigger show. Please come and stay with us.
Fantastic. Always a pleasure having you here, Albert.
Pleasure.
All right, we're going to go for a short break. But before we do that, please, we're asking you on Twitter, what do you make of Jonathan McKinstry's reign as Cranes coach? They are away on Wednesday to face Burkina Faso Stallions in Ouagadougou for the first time in Burkina Faso. Can they get that win? Let us know. Plus, discussion with Aggrey Ashaba continues immediately after this break. Stay with us.
Chala, tukumyo no mwoleso gwa mwena te. The Rising Woman Expo. Daily Monitor in partnership with DFCU Bank and UIA bring you the second season of the Rising Woman Expo. Come, let's close 2019 in style at the Expo on the 15th and 16th of November 2019. Starting at 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. at Hotel Africana, People's Space. Come attend the business clinics on getting your business to the next level. Growing your business through digital platforms, selling tips and effectively juggling business and family. To enter, simply buy a copy of the Daily Monitor at the entrance at only 2,000 shillings. Brought to you by Daily Monitor in partnership with UIA and DFCU Bank.
This is it, this is your time. Time to live, time to shine. Making every second count. That's what life is all about. Let's make the moment last. Grab life and raise your glass. When it comes to friends and fun, then Belch, you're number one.
Grab life. Bell Lager. Live every moment.
As you see in the video, the truck was badly loaded. We call it overloading. And it was in a very poor mechanical condition. It had brake failure, and he ended up knocking all the vehicles and other road infrastructure that were in front of him. If you don't maintain your vehicles, if you don't change your brake pads, if you overload, you are likely to get these accidents. This accident was responsible for injuries and deaths of many people at Chira Road traffic lights. So I warn and I advise all motorists to always service their vehicles. Stephen Kasima, Director, Traffic and Road Safety, Uganda Police Force. Twedeco, every life matters.
This message was brought to you by Viva Energy and NTV Uganda.
On the next episode...
The next time, Isabel, could you let me know that you're going to take long? So I know exactly what I should tell the people who keep asking me where my wife is.
Could we have this conversation with just the two of us? I wouldn't like the waiter to...
We have nothing to talk about.
You really don't want to hear from me, but... I thought that it might be good for you to be with him.
I'm very sorry, Isabel.
I'm doing everything wrong, Julio.
What do you mean?
A man was just attacked. Now he's in the hospital and he's very near death. And the only thing that I can think of is that I couldn't find anything out before this happened.
On the next episode...
Welcome back. It is the Press Box. We're live from the Kampala Serena Hotel and proudly powered by Guinness, made of more. The Guinness five-a-side night football tournament is on. Was in Fort Portal over the weekend. So many folks came out, played football at night, had a very good time. We had Cindy and Fig Fameka performing for those folks. And now the wave is shifting to Eastern Uganda. That is in Mbale. Those details will be coming your way. But if you're in Eastern Uganda, quickly get your team of 7. Make sure one is female. Let's battle and see who actually are the champions of the five-a-side night football. All brought to you by Guinness. Now, just last week, there was a press conference down at KCCA, and the head coach, Mike Mutebi, had something to say about the amount of competitions that FUFA has introduced for the Uganda Cranes. He is not happy. He says there are so many games, there are so many competitions. As a matter of fact, he says some are super irrelevant. Take a listen first.
The things, I'm sorry, FUFA is doing sometimes really ununderstandable. Cranes in Mutima, what does it bring to the table as far as technical development of football is concerned? And I insist they are not assisting the game at all. Quote me on that.
Well, we are quoting you, Mr. Mike Mutebi. I'm telling you, he also talked about the drum. There was an extended interview, but that is really the gist. He's talking about the different competitions that FUFA has introduced in Uganda, and he says he doesn't see any relevance in some of these competitions. Aggrey, I mean, tell me, from the kind of position you've been holding, you speak to Mike all the time, you speak to your technical team all the time, you know about how many players you have, you know how they're going to be stretched throughout the season. Is Mike right?
Before I answer that question, I wanted to take away the question from about the Switzerland thing.
Oh, yeah.
Which was
Okello.
asked. Yes. The background to that is that initially, Alan and Kiza.
You're asking about Mustafa Kiza to Zurich.
Alan and Kiza were supposed to have gone together to Zurich.
Okay.
But then Kiza got another agent. And that agent got him another trial at Valladolid. And because the first time they were supposed to have traveled, the visas were a problem, so we couldn't get them on time. So the window closed where they wanted them for trial. So they didn't go. So Kiza got another opportunity and traveled to Valladolid. So when the second opportunity came, Kiza was not available. He was already in Spain. So Alan went to Zurich. So there is no single offer or single inquiry yet for Kiza to Zurich. It's not available. What is available are a local agent here and the agent that Kiza has again signed on, because he now has 4 agents.
Yeah.
The player.
Yes.
He's signing on different people.
Yeah.
He has signed on who are trying to force a move from the club of the player. And we are saying we will not entertain such because we run a business. We have invested in the player. We know how much we've taken to get the player to where he is. So you cannot come from wherever you come because you think you either are in Europe or you think you have a couple of media houses that you can manage to leak stories and you try to force a move of a player that we have a contract with. So that will not take.
Okay.
Coming to the Mike issue, yes, I agree with him that even before this incident, we had already engaged both the UPL and the Federation. But usually we don't like to engage in public. So we have our fights with both of them and we have them privately. And we told them that, listen, the way this is happening is going to create not only room for games to be manipulated, because you can't have someone who has 7 games, another one has 12 or 15 games, and you think there will not be manipulation. In an era where betting is the norm of the day, where referees have just been caught on audio asking for money.
Yeah.
And then you tell me that someone is chasing a contender with 6 games in hand. It's not possible. That's one. 2 is that you give us a fixture at the beginning of the season. And even before we play the second game, you change it. Then after the third game, you change it. One, it interrupts the rhythm of the players. It interrupts the entertainment of the fans. It's also a cost to clubs. Because assuming you are going to play a season in 7 months, you end up playing a season in 9 months. That is 2 extra months that people have to keep players in training, pay them training allowances, play extra games, pay extra salaries. It is not. And secondly, it also interrupts planning of clubs.
Yeah.
So we are preaching professionalism on one hand, and we are doing something different on the other. So yes, we've had these engagements.
The Federation is saying that they're taking the players closer to the fans. The Uganda Cranes players closer to the fans.
Yes, but there
across the
shouldn't
country.
be a conflict between the national side and the clubs. So yes, everyone has his own interests and expectations, but you need to balance. Because I'm a chairman of a football club. I'm not the president of FIFA. So I need to take care of the interests of my football club. And you have to understand them because the players are my property. FIFA doesn't own players. The players are assets of the club. So we have to plan for them. So if they go, Alan Okello got injured the other day on the Cranes engagement.
Yeah.
He's out. And he's not going to play. He got a knock. He's been tested. I don't know what the results are. He was supposed to have a test today. So what are we doing? Because for us, if he's injured, yes, collateral damage. But then, now he has gone for the national side. You're not probably even going to use him, and then he gets a knock. So we're saying some of these things, yes, it's a process, but they need to be ironed out. And we need to discuss them. We need to sit on the table and look each other in the eye and be able to say that this cannot apply, this cannot apply, that cannot apply.
Interesting stuff. The recent rains have obviously been pounding most of the pitches here in Uganda, and they have left them unplayable. And since they're unplayable, there are a number of clubs that are homeless. One of those clubs is Sports Club Villa, who are the record champions here in Uganda. And I have it on good authority that they approached you, by you I mean KCCA FC, and engaged you about the possibility of playing their home matches at the StarTimes Stadium. And your response was a resounding no, and that has rubbed many people the wrong way.
Yeah, KCCA is not in the business of aiding rivals to do their business, and we do not entertain clubs like Express, like Villa, to play on our turf. They should go and build their own stadiums where they can host us.
Yes.
Because that's not our business. Whether they have a stadium or not, it doesn't matter. Because for us, we are here to run KCCA Football Club and to make sure that we beat them whenever they visit us. So we cannot allow them to come to our turf. To do what? If they want to look for a stadium, there are many stadiums. There's one in Bombo, there's in Barara, there's Barifa. I know Express has ever taken Vida there some years ago. They can go and play from there. They don't need to come to StarTimes Stadium. They can only come there when we are playing them on a competitive match.
But that rivalry is only traditional and on paper, because your true rival actually is Vipers, and Vipers were not the ones asking.
No, we cannot
you're not in the same league anymore.
We cannot be rivals to Vipers when the difference between Vipers and KCC is 10 trophies.
10 trophies.
It's not possible.
Okay.
No.
There's no rivalry there.
Okay, I'm saying for the
because Express and us are 10 league capture trophies,
yes,
and we are 3 trophies behind the Villa. I
Yes.
can't be able to compete with someone who is 10 trophies behind. How is that possible?
So Villa are not
That's
rivals.
not a rival.
Vipers are not rivals.
It's just a noisy neighbor. The only rivals we have are Villa and Express.
Oh, these are strong words.
Whoever is in St. Mary's Chitele is not happy about the press box tonight.
And they are playing, KCCA is playing Vipers on Saturday.
So you can imagine what Aggrey just drummed up.
No.
Okay, guys, I think we should spend the next few minutes. You wanted to wrap this up? Because I want us to talk about the Cranes now.
Yeah, they beat. I wanted to just say one word about the FUFA clash with KCCA, as in Mike's comments and Aggrey's.
Yes.
Of course, this is an age-old thing. Everywhere in the world in football, there's always a clash between federations and clubs. Yeah, because clubs are, like I said, they're businesses and they have got to take care of their interests. But federations also have got to take care of certain interests. I see, for example, personally for me, it doesn't make any sense that UEFA came up with a competition which is almost the same as the European Championships. They have a European Nations League, so they take players, and they're playing 2 tournaments which are virtually the same for me under the circumstances, and the clubs have to stomach that. I'm sure there's quite a few issues there. Actually,
big problems.
Big problems. Yeah, but so don't. You might say FUFA are doing something which doesn't make sense to you, but it makes sense to them as a federation and the way they have to run their football. The important thing at the end of the day is what Aggrey said, because while, for example, the Nations League is a new creation which encroaches on players and clubs, it has been fitted properly into the calendar. And there's no unpredictability about it. So the thing that FUFA here have to do, and I think it's all federations across board in Ugandan sport, is to become more and more predictable, less and less random. So that these things are under plan. There's what I am with Aggrey completely is that you cannot be in the same league and be 6 games behind. It's not acceptable.
Yeah, it's not acceptable. Those are so many games.
That's not competition.
Yeah.
That's something else.
Guys, let's quickly move on here. I mean, there's lots of action in the Uganda Premier League. There's Vipers up against URA tomorrow. Should be an interesting one. Then Wednesday, there's KCCA up against Express. Should be a fantastic clash as well. KCCA up against Vipers on Saturday. There's a very big gap now in between you and Villa and Express in terms of competition over the years. But they're still traditional sides. You supply some of the most players to the national side. And before we talk about the Cranes, is that one of your biggest achievements? Is that one of the things you feel most proud of, that KCCA is shipping in many players to the senior side now?
Yeah, I think it's a plus not only to the club, but also the technical team that gives them those improvements so that they can get onto the national side. But it's also important for the players, because when they get onto the national side, they create themselves the value. And this value is what then translates into opportunities. And we keep on telling them that, listen, the business end of the game is being onto the national side and keeping your position. Because if you don't keep it, no one is going to look at you. So if you're just on the fringes all the time, it's impossible for you to be sold. So it's important for the players to keep on the national side. Obviously, kudos to Mike and his team, because they polish up these players, run them all day through. I know people sometimes say he's too rough, they're overtraining, but you can see the results. Is that the players actually, when they get there, they actually perform.
They're fantastic. So, Maxali, focus turns to Ouagadougou now. McKinstry officially in the spotlight. Very competitive game coming up for Uganda up against Burkina Faso. From a distance, what do we make of it?
this group is yet another opportunity for the Cranes to qualify for the Nations Cup, and they can make it 3 on the bounce. But they've got to be careful with with the rivals like Burkina Faso, because the West African nations have given us a problem a lot. It's just that thankfully in the recent past we have overcome our away jinx. There's a time when an away game meant a loss, regardless of who we put out there. That is no longer the case. And actually, if my predictions, as you asked, are already giving us a draw, I'm thinking we can get a point there. But there have been wins in places like Cape Verde for Uganda in recent times, and it was unheard of just 15 years ago. So I think there's a great opportunity there. I don't think there's too much momentum that has been lost with these lads since they played at the AFCON. They know each other quite a bit. Apparently the squad, as it has trained today in that closed door meeting, is traveling. So people are asking what's the final squad. The guys who've been training today are joining the ones who are already there. So the only absentees, say from AFCON, we can talk of people like Muchibi,
who's injured,
who's already pulled out injured. So and I think Godfrey Olusimbi, who's retired. I think virtually everybody else is back. And it should be the same team competing there. It will be difficult, and I'm thinking that now across the continent, there's a recognition of Uganda as a footballing nation. Our exploits in the last AFCONs, our rankings, the awards we have won, both as a team and also individually. For people like Onyango, they've earned us recognition as a tough competitor. And that win over DR Congo, the fact that we made it out of the group stages the last time is something that will hold us in good stead. So there will be a bit of respect, which I don't think there was much of before when we travelled. But I don't about conditions.
You don't know.
I think they're going to face it rough.
Yeah, Rob.
I think it's going to be a tough time in Ouagadougou.
There's going to be pressure on McKinstry because now he's officially starting his reign in so many ways, you could say. But also, we're now a feared side across the African continent, to be honest. The Uganda Cranes could be making a bounce, like he's saying, to the AFCON for the 3rd time. We're a confident side. Yeah,
we are confident, but we're coming up against a team that is vastly experienced. Burkina Faso, the Stallions, and just looking at their squad, that was released a short while back, teaming with lots of experienced players, Kabore, the Traore brothers. You look at Jonathan Petrioipa, Aristide Bans is also being named in that side. So, there's lots of experience there. And the last time we went there, we ended up losing that match 1-0. I think it was Jonathan Petrioipa who scored the penalty. So, first competitive game for McKinstry. He had that terrific result in Ethiopia where he went and picked up a 1-0 win. He will be hoping that Emmanuel Okwi, I think, was here and took part in the training session behind closed doors at Nambole, will continue scoring the goals, because he scored 2 goals on the bounce. He scored against Kenya, and also he scored against Ethiopia away. So he's going to be relying on him. But just before you leave, just 2 days, I think 3 days, my math usually fails me, separates the away fixture from the home fixture. And
Sunday against Malawi.
Yeah, Sunday against Malawi. And usually, back in the days, it used to cause us lots of problems because we didn't have the resources to charter a plane. So our players would come back from that away fixture when they are fatigued, and they wouldn't have a lot of juice. But this time around, I think FUFA has injected quite a bit of money. I think there's going to be a Uganda Airlines flight that's going to take the players, and they'll be back home early enough to prepare for that game against Malawi.
They've got a direct stream from State House these days. So these charters have been demystified by the Uganda Cranes. But the guys you just talked about.
Just before I cross over to Joel, I wanted to ask you as well, and this is from again a KCCA perspective, because we've been discussing the impact of quality at clubs going on to really impact the national side. But there must be the other way as well. Uganda Cranes performing brilliant on the continent. Does that in any way help KCCA? Does it in any way help the clubs here? Because now everyone is talking about Ugandan football. Do you feel the benefits of the Cranes' success on the continent at club level?
Indirectly, yes, because every time the Cranes performs well on the continent, is that it sheds a spotlight onto the country. So when you look at the agent market, probably, they'll be looking at the top sides in African football. So they will look and say, if there's a club, if there's a country that is performing well, there must be players somewhere in that country who are good enough that we can actually bring in early and be able to use, which is an advantage. Directly, I would love to see more national team players coming from the local league. And I believe we have a couple of them who can actually be able to knock on the doors. Yes, professional football gives you a certain perspective, a certain discipline, and an experience and exposure that probably you will not have within a league of ours. Because like you say, 6 games apart, people play once a week, as opposed to where they could be playing 3 times a week. They play 45 games a year. There's a little bit of quality that is lacking. But I would still think that it would be good to have players coming from the local league who can knock on the doors of the national team. And even at least give 10-15 minutes of them. Because then it would inspire those who are still knocking or who are still playing in the local league to be able to aspire to also play at the Cranes.
We did ask you tonight about the impact of Jonathan McKinstry, what you make of his first few days in his reign so far. Joel Kamadi is standing by for a couple of those questions before we wrap the debate here. Joel.
I can tell you that Aggrey ruffled some feathers with Vipers fans because Sir Fabian Paves says Aggrey might be forced to swallow his words after Vipers reduced that trophy gap. How dare you call the club from Chitende noisy neighbors? Some respect, please. All right, now to that Johnny McKinstry's issue. We asked, what do you make of his reign at the helm of Uganda Cranes? Prince Kalema says, so far not bad, though still the same problem of summoning the same players, even when some have no playing time at their club. Sam Parker, wish him the very best, still early to make anything from him. Anthony Agaba says, I think he has been hidden from the masses a lot. Maybe it's one of his winning tactics, but there's got to be that link with him, to the people, to the football fans. Ogok says he is exciting. Murunj K. Ronald says nothing much to say for now. It's too early to tell. Umar says let him bring to us attacking football only. And Kiyingi Eli says the true moment to start making anything of his reign is upon us with the 2 fixtures this week.
Mark, you wanted to wrap this up?
Just 2 things, little observations there. One, as far as the Cranes are concerned, there was a lot of speculation about the fact that it would be a very changed side for this new campaign, considering that how the players rubbed FIFA the wrong way with that strike in Egypt. And several of the players would be axed. That hasn't come to pass, at least not yet. So that is something that we needed to put into perspective, because there's
some were, Mark.
Some women. How many? You can name them.
Jamal, Salim
Magola,
and
I think
Dancing Rasta.
Those 2, yeah, they crossed the point of no return.
Yes.
Well, I think Salim for him, and he's been unrepentant since.
Yes.
Some of the tweets that have been coming forth, they have been quite interesting.
Verified, so we can defend it.
Okay, yeah, that was one observation. The second one is that when he rattles off those names, the names were rolling off his tongue of the Burkina Faso squad.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking these guys are knocking 40.
Yes, they are.
I mean, these guys. I mean, that's one of the things our team has got to. That has got to. Kabore, I mean, Barnes, for God's sake. I mean, this guy. Aristide. I mean, Pitroepa. I mean, the guy has played forever. I mean, I don't care if he started at 13. He's been around for quite a bit.
Okay.
So it's one of the things that our players. One of the things that our camp can use. You're saying, yeah, we're facing experience. Be careful. They know all the corners, but also take the game to them.
Yeah.
Let's see how they last.
Yeah.
Let's put them under a bit of pressure. And the pace with which we played at AFCON,
yes.
I don't know if it can be replicated on smaller away grounds in a non-tournament setting. But it's something that you'd like to see. I'd like to see Lumala. Still playing. I don't know if he's in Egypt. He's been playing the same way he was in Sweden, but I'd like to see him positively actually taking the game to the Burkinabe, that kind of thing.
The big game is on Wednesday in Ouagadougou. Uganda is up against Burkina Faso. Should be a big battle. Then, of course, on Sunday against Malawi at the Mandela National Stadium. So come out. Let's all go and support the Uganda Cranes. Folks, let me end with your quick predictions. Let me put you on the wall for this one before I show you the prediction table. Oh, there you go. Uganda away to Burkina Faso. Mark, how do you see this one going?
1-1.
Okay, that's a nice result, you should say. Aggrey, you have to join in on this predictions game.
I'm not very good, but I'll go for a 1-1 also.
1-1. Madoy?
I'll also go for a scoring draw.
I hope, Madoy, no one takes your predictions for serious advice.
Why?
Joel is going for 2-1 for the Uganda Cranes to actually win in West Africa. And then we play Malawi on Sunday at Nambole. Mark?
Yeah, 3-1.
Oh, okay, fantastic. Aggrey?
2-0.
Okay.
We'll win with a clean sheet.
With a clean sheet?
Yes.
Joel as well says it should be 1-0. Then we cross over to Europe. There's a lot of those. A big international break coming up. Russia up against Belgium.
That's a nice one. Again, I'm thinking they're going to cancel each other out. But I think Belgium has got the stronger squad, but the Russians at home are a good side. So I'm thinking they're cancelling each other out. So I don't. Let me go another 1-1.
Another 1-1. Yeah. Aggrey is looking at the screen. Very pensive.
Because it doesn't do predictions. It's not a prediction.
But for this one, I think I'll go for 3-1 Belgium.
3-1 Belgium.
Okay.
3-1 Belgium.
I'm also going for a draw.
Okay. Joe says 2-1 Belgium. Then we come to Ugandan football. Vipers up against URA. It's a big one tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I'm thinking Vipers win this 2-1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aggrey, I don't know which side you're going to be on this one. But how do you see it going?
Should be a scoring draw.
Scoring draw. Is that what you hope for, or is that what you think it's going to be?
It's a prediction.
Okay.
But if I'm to hope for,
okay,
URA should win.
Mr.
Yeah, I'm also going with a draw. URA is Vipers' bogey side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joe says 1-0.
But Fahad Bayo is on fire. Positively on fire.
Okay, the next game
I'll probably... Is he with the team? Because isn't he training with the...
There's that, eh?
The next prediction, I will jump, Aggrey, to be honest. I'll ask you first, Mark. KCCA up against Vipers.
Where is this?
This should be...
Star Times?
Star Times,
yes. I'm going for KCCA victory.
KCCA victory.
Yeah.
Another
2-1.
Yeah, I'll also go 2-1.
I mean, you can give us the scores, the perfect scores as well, just in terms of prediction.
I can't be objective with KCCA. Yeah, so you know definitely what will be my prediction.
Like 5-0.
Like 5-0, yeah. Joel says 2-1 for KCCA. Then, I love this one. I love this one on... This one against Express. Massive game as well. Red up against Yellow. So many ways a political battle. No.
Yeah, and we beat these guys 3-2 at 1 o'clock. Did you watch that game?
Yes.
Did any of you watch that game?
In a potato garden, anything can happen.
Where is this game going to be played again?
Express are hosts. Let's just leave it at that for now, yeah?
Aggrey said, at a potato garden, anything can happen.
No, yeah, we beat these guys before, and I'm thinking we can shock them again.
Okay, let's show
there's a shock result there. 2-1.
All right.
Express.
It's quite interesting that now that's a shock result.
You mean you became giant killers?
Yeah.
No, we're not giant killers. We're just saying KCCA are the stronger team right now. Yeah, we admit to that. But I think we are solid, and they're the kind of side that inspire us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And we've got arguably at the moment the best attacking trio in the league.
Okay.
Have you heard of Frank Sejon and Frank Alanda? Have you heard of Disan Galiwang? The three. Everybody talks about Sebogere as a defensive coach.
How many points have you collected?
They're currently out of the top 10. Let's quickly show
14 points, yeah.
We have the official predictions table here on Press Box. There you go. Madoa is still top, quite surprisingly, 45. Mangusha is second on 44. I'm on 41. Then there is a big 4 points in there between the two guys who are really holding us firm on the ground. Mark and Asha.
I'm beginning to pull away from Asha. I think you guys should be worried at the top there, because I was taking these things a little jokingly. The good thing is I'm doing it exactly like Ole. Yeah.
You're starting slow.
Yeah. Ole and I are going places. We are now climbing.
We shall show you the Fantasy Premier League table next week. We shall bring it up and show you the top 10, which folks are doing fantastic well. But thank you very much, Aggrey, first of all.
Pleasure, mine.
Such a pleasure having you here. And let me tell you something, Mark. See, Aggrey has decided not to tell us about the details of tomorrow's presser. But me, I was reading his mood. And this is what I think. I think Aggrey is going to leave.
You think so?
That's what I think. You just predict? I think because if he was going to stay, he would have officially said it and said wait for confirmation in the presser. But he has kept those details. What do you think?
Are you putting a wedge down? I mean,
strike a call.
Strike a call. Put your money where your mouth is.
Let's wait for it. Aggrey, thank you very much.
I think it's staying.
You think it's staying? And I wish you all the best, man. And please pick our calls and come to the press box when we invite you. It's always open.
I'm always available as long as it's football and it's KCCA.
Fantastic. Mr. Madoi, thank you very much as well as Mark and of course Joel Kamadi. Asha Komgisha is away, but she will be returning to the show just like Andrew Mwangusha as well. Here is my 2 cents for the show this very week. This is the Ugandan football fans. You see, it's quite funny that every single day we're on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter talking about Ugandan football not having that many fans and going down the drain. But have you ever taken a step back and actually realized you're one of the biggest particles in the whole object when it comes down to Ugandan football. If you, the fans, are not going out to the stadium to watch your teams cheer on your players and make them big idols, if you, the fans, are not going out there posting about your sides and cheering them and making them a very big story across Uganda and buying their jerseys so you can give them as much money as they can, we cannot develop. Football is such a very expensive sport all over the world. So the corporate world and the fans out there, we only have one thing to do. Get out there, support our local clubs at various grounds, buy their jerseys, and support the boys as much as we can. That way, Ugandan football will go to the next level. We can't leave it to the managers, the players, and just the board members. Us, the fans, have got to step in. So as I step out of the show tonight, I leave one big question for you, and you can hashtag us, NTV Press Box. Which Ugandan football club do you support, and how much have you supported the side? Proudly powered by Guinness, we're live from the Kampala Serena Hotel. It's the Press Box. Good night.